I thank you for staying here for so long. And so the thing is, well, first of all, what is Fundar? Fundar is an organization that has been around since 1999 in Mexico, right at the middle of the so-called democratic transition. At first, we started working issues transparency, budget, accountability, and we were very known for these issues. However, the organization in the last 15 years has grown considerably. Right now, we have our staff is comprised by 42 persons, and the thing is, it's difficult to classify Fundar. It could be a think tank, a watchdog organization. We do some grassroots work, especially we have 2 offices in the 2 poorest states in Mexico. It has we have a strategic litigation team that works in several cases, and we also have a team that develops information and communication technologies. But well, our objectives are pretty broad. It's the increase and fortification of citizen participation, more transparency and accountability from public officials, a consolidation of the rule of law, consolidation of substantive democracy in Mexico, not just representative democracy, but democracy where that the citizens engage in the public matters, and also substantive equality and the guarantee of a broad spectrum of human rights for all the population. So basically how we work, this is Fundar's theory of change. We have 2 different strategies from the bottom up and also from the top down. The thing is, we always start with a lot of research and network building, and then we try to engage from the top by engaging other civil society actors, specialists, also the media and stakeholders in government, in the legislative, and through them we have tried to advocate for change depending on the agenda. But also we need to work from the bottom up by strengthening social movements, strengthening communities so they can make use of several tools at their disposal to enact change in Mexican policy. So I'll be rushing a bit, but the thing is, in Mexico, the extractive industries are governed by the Article 27 of the Constitution that establishes a national direct domain over all underground resources, and it is the Mexican state who administrates these resources in a quite authoritarian way. So, a brief history of the oil industry in Mexico. After the revolution in 1917, the Constitution was promulgated, and all underground resources became a national domain. Well, they became the Mexican nation became the owner of all underground resources. And after 1938, finally, President Lázaro Cárdenas managed to nationalize the oil industry and create a state-owned oil company that nowadays is one of the biggest oil companies in the world, which is Petroleum Mexicanos, which is Pemex. I'm not going to lie to you, the oil extraction industry was a very important piece in the puzzle of Mexican industrialization. However, it was not a fundamental piece. There were other elements that were fundamental. However, the oil revenue allowed Mexico to start from a different platform. It was a big aid in Mexico's industrialization process. However, after the 1980s, it became more of a crutch. The thing is, in the 1980s, we discovered considerable onshore resources in the Gulf of Mexico, and suddenly, after also the import substitution industrialization model entered into a crisis in Mexico. So the thing is, with this oil revenue became a curse for Mexico, since the government stopped taxing large industries in Mexico and started to receive all revenue from the state-owned company. And since 1982, all the way to 2013, most of the oil revenue, and I'm talking about hundreds of billions of dollars, were thrown to the drain of how do you call it, current account spending. The thing is, well, just to give you an idea, this is a graphic from 2006 to 2013. All income, all government income, the blue bars over there, they represent government income coming from oil extraction. It's more than a third of all government income in Mexico. And it's been so all the way to last year. Like, it was more than, if I'm correct, 35% of all government income. And the thing is, the government has been very comfortable not implementing fiscal reform because they have all of these resources they can rely on. However, we have just let the cow dry, and now the very rich oil deposits from where we are extracting this wealth is starting to decline, and we will have already passed this glorious moment of free, a free lunch, and now Mexico is going to enter a very problematic stage in its economy once these resources decline. However, the thing is, since 2008, well, since 1980, there's been several attempts to privatize the oil industry, and this could seem like a solution. However, it's not. I think it is not the correct solution. In 2008, they managed to open certain areas of oil exploitation to integrated contracts for services and exploitation with the private entities, where they associated with the state-owned company. But up to 2013, this was last November, they managed to, well, there was a profound reform process in Mexico that didn't contemplate at all any civil society participation, no academic debate, no public debate in the media, and they managed to privatize the entire oil industry in Mexico, which is a radical change from the model that was predominant during the 20th century. So the thing is that the oil industry needed a fix, but we went all the way to the other extreme to try to fix this problem. And now we have Pemex, Petroleum Mexicanos, competing on equal terms with other transnational corporations for oil contracts. However, oil exports, or oil, are not the main dominant activity in Mexico. Mexico is quite a large economy, and as you can see, well, the orange bars represent manufacturers. They dominate economic exports in Mexico, as well as other areas. The services are also a big area of economic activity. The thing is, the government is completely dependent on oil extraction, while the economy at large, not so much. So, well, where does Fundarse Extractive Industries project come? Well, just to explain briefly, we are working on two dimensions, on several areas. First, the project engages in mining activities and also hydrocarbon activities, but also on the other axis, we can see that, well, there's a part of our project, and this is a bit of a schizophrenic approach to things in Mexico. Part of the work we do it concerns governance of extractive industries in Mexico, and the other has more to do with land, territory, and commons, which would be another more correct name for resources, and human rights. So, with respect to the governance of hydrocarbon extraction activities, which is more associated to what we're talking about here in this conference, well, Fundar has worked in the last 3 years, at least since 2008, in trying to advocate for more transparency, more access to public information, accountability, and also citizen participation in these 3 different areas, which are management of oil income funds, contract transparency, and also corporate social expenditures by Pemex. So the thing is that they asked me to bring forward here to this conference 2 successful examples of strategies that the Fundarse Extractive Industries project has pursued to enact change in this sector. One is, I'll just mention, is the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, and the other is fracking. And then there are two different, very different strategies, because the first one was an attempt to collaborate with the government to push for change. And the second one is more like, it's actually very confrontative. So the thing is with AT, in 2012, I was invited to participate in the Open Government Partnership, and in the Extractive Industries discussion table, we brought forward the necessity for Mexico to incorporate to the AT standard. After a year of negotiations, we got 8 government offices to recognize the convenience of subscribing IT. Nevertheless, this recognition came 2 weeks before President Felipe Calderón left office, so there was no public declaration from the president to incorporate to AT. This was left to the following government, Enrique Peña Nieto's government. Fortunately, in 2013, after the presidential transition, the Energy Secretariat was still enthusiastic about pushing forward AT, and a couple of months ago, the AT board met in Mexico City, and negotiations are still ongoing about Mexico's adherence to this standard. But about the lessons learned of this strategy, first of all, that they need to set a very clear goal. And the goal is this: AT is not a goal in itself. And there has to be much clarity about this, because AT has failed in Central America, in several countries, where precisely they only negotiated with a few civil society actors that were not close to grassroots organizations or communities or movements. And the thing is, it is only a means to an end. So if through AT it is possible to push for more transparency, access to public information, accountability and citizen participation, then at least from our part, from that, we will continue to push forward this agenda. At the moment, this is no longer possible. We just try another strategy to get to these objectives. Second, research. It is important to strengthen, sorry for the orthographical, strengthen the civil society's arguments and find coincidences between civil society's goals and each of the government's agencies' own interests. For example, if more regulation in the sector, for example in the mining sector, is needed in Mexico, you can argue to the government office that it will increase its budget, its personnel, and both this office and civil society will get complemented, their goals are reached together. So, third, working coalitions. It is important. A single organization is insignificant when negotiating before the government, but a large coalition of organizations can have a significant impact in pushing forward an agenda. Fourth, recognize CSO's bargaining power. Fortunately, in the EATI, the multi-stakeholder group, if civil society decides to step down, then the AT standard just becomes frozen, and unless they find other organizations to push it forward. But the thing is that there's much bargaining power from CSOs, and if they have their objectives clear, they can push for significant changes. And also, openly denounce serious setbacks, use the media, use whatever tool available to civil society, and also recognize small victories, because the thing is, it's kind of frustrating, but we haven't seen much change in the Mexican hydrocarbon sector yet. And we've been doing this, at least this AT initiative, since 2.5 years till now. The thing is, however, some changes have been enacted. At least there's a will from the government to push forward this agenda. So the thing, we will stay here for the long haul, and if this strategy doesn't work, we will abandon it and adopt another one. Finally, the outcome. Well, Mexico's hydrocarbon sector is quite enthusiastic in joining AT, that's the good news. However, there seems to be a tacit agreement to leave the mining sector of AT. This is particularly worrisome in Mexico. And also, as I said before, if Mexican CSOs become complacent, AT LPA will mean nothing regarding the improvement of transparency, access to information, accountability, and citizen participation standards. Second issue, fracking. This has been a confrontational, direct confrontational strategy against the Mexican government at the state and local levels. The thing is, we do not think, we're pushing forward in this conference for the exploitation of natural resources because this is supposed to benefit, on the long run, the populations of our own countries. However, if the costs of pushing this agenda are going to be more elevated than the benefits, but we seriously need to consider if we should be pushing this kind of extractive technologies. I'm talking about, well, for example, we have very, very bad experiences with onshore and offshore exploitation in the Gulf of Mexico. In the early 1980s, an onshore well called Istok 1 exploded and created the second worst catastrophe of oil spills in the history of this industry. And in 2009, all of you have already heard about the Deepwater Horizon catastrophe as well. Also, we do not agree with the tar sands exploitation in Alberta, in Canada. We think this is just scratching the bottom of the barrel of, it's like acting us as humanity as an addict, an oil addict, pushing for the last remaining oil reservoirs. So, fracking, for us, falls in the same category, and well, between 2005 and 2012, there has been large evidence of social and environmental impact of fracking projects in the US and the Mexican energy sector. That there was the reform I was telling you about of 2013 that posed a serious risk to the proliferation of fracking projects in Mexico. We stood on alert, and after the reforms were enacted, well, this is what's coming to Mexico. In 2015, they will deliver the first fracking contracts for shale exploitation in Mexico's north and northeast. There are the purple areas in the map, not the ones in the Gulf of Mexico, but the ones inland. So, well, the strategy here, set a clear goal. As I was saying, these are the lessons learned. Fracking prohibition was our goal, is our goal. We were based in France and Bulgaria as presidents, two countries that have prohibited this technique. Second, research. We needed to strengthen our arguments, and we keep fortifying them continually to keep 2 steps ahead of the government and the promoters of fracking activities. Also, we have learned to work in coalitions to use every single organization's strengths and resources intelligently. We have created a Mexican Alliance Against Fracking that incorporates 35 Mexican CSOs. And finally, well, not finally, fourth, this is fundamental, and it's to use an integral multi-level strategy that involves research, public opinion outreach through media, social networks, street activism. We have pushed for legislation prohibiting fracking. We got a piece of legislation it was presented at the Senate and the Chamber of Deputies, grassroots organizing, and the strategic legal defense. We haven't done all of these strategies by ourselves. We have utilized the strengths of several organizations working in coalition. And, well, the small victories as well. The thing is, right now, the outcome, we're nowhere near attaining fracking prohibition. However, fracking has become a common term used in the media, and the government discourse has changed. Before they were promoting fracking activities, they were promising us that certain areas of Mexico would become Dubai or Saudi Arabia, and nowadays they're more concerned with being cautious about what they're saying and trying to justify from an environmental and human rights perspective, why are they're pushing these techniques. And, well, communities in Mexico's north and east are starting to organize to defend their territories. So, well, these are 2 examples of the strategies we've been involved in our project. There are other strategies we've been working on. However, well, if you want to check our webpage, it's www.fundar.org.mx. and www.mineriapetroleum.org.